I'm Ian Boxill, and this is PSP Master Tales. And I'm not gonna dance.
One of my favorite albums.
Yes.
And I have to ask you about Fury, because I love the song. It's so good. And I was wondering, how did you record his guitars? Was it like, what kind of cabinet, what kind of mics you use on that, and overall things? Because I love the sound of the guitar.
Fury, let me see if I can remember how we did that. He had like a small Fender amp. He didn't have anything major. I think I'm lying. I think he had a Marshall's cabinet. I think on that I used SM57, and I might have used a Roya ribbon mic. Prince didn't have patience for getting a guitar sound. He didn't. I could switch mics, and I was like, "Don't put a mic on it." He tuned his pedals how he wanted it, and that was it. Maybe do a little compression and EQ on the SSL, and that was it. And hit record. He worked very fast though. Let me see, Fury. Let me see if I can remember who played on that. Yeah, I think it was Cora and Josh and Prince and guitars. So literally, he showed him basically the form of the song, and I hit record, and it'd be a take. He would call out like the changes and the sections on the mic, and he kind of sing some rough vocals while he was playing the guitar. Then he would go back in and redo his guitar and then redo his lead vocals with the original backing track. So pretty sure it's SM57 on a Marshall Hashtag and a Roya ribbon mic. That was like 2005, I believe.
What about, there are beautiful horns on Get on the Boat, and I've been wondering, how did you record that?
That was on Paisley to tape also. Greg Boyer was on trombone. Candy Dugford was on sax, I believe. And there were two trumpet players, one trumpet player, can't remember. Again, those were 414 mics, all into SSL mic pre's. But like I said, he didn't have time. He didn't have patience for me to try outboard mic pre's and that kind of stuff. So it was just just get a sound and hit record.
And you love the way SSL worked for you as an engineer? Or you would prefer something else like Trident or Neve? Or
I would have loved a Neve, but didn't have that option. I mean, we think I had like a couple of outboard API mic pre's, but I didn't have time to do that. It was just basically get the microphones on, get a sound, hit record.
So who mixed this record?
I did.
Okay, so and Prince was... Yeah. So Prince was helping you with the mixing process, or he was doing the rough mix, or it depends on a song?
Well, it depends on the song, but usually that's when I first started working with Prince, and he called me off guard when he would do these rough mixes and record it directly into Lisa's, what was the name of that machine? Not that, the one that records his CDs. I can't remember the name of the machine, but you record right. I take the output of the console right into the ADAT, and then the meters would be in red, and I'm thinking it's just something for him to listen to. I remember one time I told him, "Oh no, his meter is too high." He's like, "No, that's fine." And then he'd listen to it. He'd live with it for a couple days. And then he'd give me the CD and tell me to transfer it to Pro Tools, and he started recording over that distorted rough mix that he did. And in the end, I'd have to make it work. Like I have to try to fix it and make it work with all the new parts he recorded. So that was kind of like sweating. There was one song on there that I mixed. A couple songs that I mixed completely with all the tracks. Now with like a rough mix that he had done. I think it was a song called Mi Corazon.
Yeah, this one.
Yeah, I mixed that. Yeah, I mixed that one. It was live strings. Yeah, I remember he came into the studio when I'm mixing after I had mixed it to listen. And he listened and gave me a high five. Like, all right, Prince is giving me a high five. And then he gave me one piece of advice. I remember when he listened to the song, it was like I over EQ'd his vocals. He's like, I can see your fingerprints all over my vocals. Like, you never want to hear what you've done. So I took that piece of advice from Prince. You don't want to see the engineer's fingerprints all over the vocals, you know. You don't want to hear what you've done. Just make it sound as natural as possible.
I have another question about 3121 album. Because I've read inside that it was mastered by Bernie Grundman.
Yes, it was.
And he's a big name in the industry. So I've been wondering how you worked with Bernie. And, you know, was it the first time you've worked with Bernie Grundman?
How Prince worked with Bernie?
Yeah, and this is also like a question, like who did this decision to choose Bernie Grundman for mastering?
I can't recall. I don't know if I suggested Bernie. I think I might have suggested Bernie. So, of course, you know, I think he might have worked with Prince before. So it was basically me and Prince and Bernie Grundman at his mastering studio in Hollywood. But Bernie's like super fast, great hair. Bernie told me that he could hear the difference between a CD that was recorded at 4 times rate and say 16 times. So he always burned his CDs in real time. No 2x or 4x. So it's Bernie. And of course it was all mastered on analog equipment. You know, Bernie has his custom desk with his custom cues. And he recorded directly into Sonic Solutions recording system. So there was no feedback. I mean, just let Bernie do his thing, and it sounded amazing when it was finished. So me and Prince just sat and watched him do his thing.
Can you tell me something about this record, Lotus Flower? How it was to record it? Do you remember anything specific about this record? Any story or... Because I love this record, but it's 3 albums in one. And it's like a lot of work to do, probably.
I did a lot of work on the Bria Valente album. That was Prince's girlfriend at the time. For some reason, he always liked to record his girlfriends and do a record. I don't know why. That was his thing, I guess. I guess that was his courting technique. So anyway, that was done over a weird period of time. It was like one of the last few records I ever did with him. And there's songs that kind of showed up on that record that we had done earlier during the 3121 days. So he just put it on that record. So it was specific. And Prince had a unique way of working on albums that I realized when I first worked with him. He would do an album and he'd have the whole concept in his mind already. And he'd print he'd print the CD artwork. He had a guy upstairs that did the graphics for him. And then he'd take the rough CD of all the songs that I would make for him, but like a rough mastering. And that would be a CD, and he'd live with it for a while, with the names and everything printed out. So that would be like a rough of the CD. So he had the concept. Then he would take songs off and put new songs on, and redo the graphics for that label. So that 3121 cover was around for a while before the album came out. And it was like a rough, exactly. And it was named after a house that he had rented during that period of time. 3121 was,
Is this
it wasn't that house. That's a house he rented after when the album came out, and he just put 3121 on it. It was a different house earlier. Most people think that's the house because he rented a house from a basketball player. He'd have these great parties that everybody would show up to.
But you got to tell him about the sock.
I think that the picture I'm going to send you, I'm actually wearing Prince's socks. Here's what happened. So I show up. His assistant calls me. Prince wants me at the house at 4 p.m. or something. So I go over to his house. He was leasing a house over here in Hollywood Hills. I go over to his house and I see a red carpet and, caterers. And I'm like, okay, what's going on here? So apparently they were having a party. So his wife at the time, she tells me, she gives me this suit from his tour. I guess he had some wardrobe. So I put on this suit and I had white socks on. Fortunately, I had black shoes on, but I had white socks on. I have this suit that's a little bit tight on me. I'm sitting down in the room that he had the mobile rig in, and there's a party going on, and he walks in with Spike Lee and Chris Rock. And he starts making fun. Look at this brother's shoes. Look at this brother's socks. White socks. So Chris Rock and Spike Lee laughing at me. I guess he kind of felt bad after he left. He came back in 5 minutes later with a pair of socks. That's just socks. I was like, oh my, Princess give me a pair of socks. I was like, you're not getting these back. He's like, I don't want them back. That's his socks. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm putting on Prince's socks. I'm the fit. So
I was wondering because I've read in a book about Prince that he didn't give people his phone number, and he was calling always. So and he was calling in the middle of the night to his coworkers. So I was wondering, how did it work with you? And did you have to work in the middle of the night and pick up the phone?
More or less, but we would start during the day, fortunately. But so we working through the night, sometimes into the morning, and he would call me on my phone. Sometimes he'd use my phone to make business calls. He never had his own phone, so sometimes he'd have me call the president of MCA Records. I remember I had to call him on my phone. I was like, "Can you hold for Prince?" And I gave Prince my phone, and Prince would be talking on my phone to the president of MCA Records or whatever.
Did you have ever a chance to talk with him about his creative process?
I think he thought so. I mean, he did say that he hears the whole song in his head first before he even starts recording. He hears it in his head. So I don't know how he gets inspiration for a song, let's say, but he's definitely old school. He sits with a cassette recorder, like the one you had at that show, and his guitar, and he would write songs like that, and he would write the lyrics out. And then he has, like when he plays drums on his songs, he has the whole song in his head and he just reads the lyrics like he's reading music and he just plays the song. So it's inspiration. I couldn't tell you where it comes from, but I know it's just effortless for him. It's just like, for him, it's just like speaking a second language. He's so proficient at it,
Mhm.
He can play effortlessly and not even think about it. You could probably play a whole song while having a conversation. And his fingers just do the magic. One time we went to the grocery store in Chanhassen, Minnesota called Barley's. They were open 24 hours. So sometimes Prince would like at 2 o'clock would want to go to the grocery store. So we'd stop recording and we'd get in his old beat up Jeep Cherokee and he drives. One time he's driving. So we went there like 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning. And there's Prince pushing a cart and he's like a little kid. He's jumping on the cart and riding the cart like a little kid and going up and down aisles and he buys these ice cream bars. Haagen-Dazs ice cream bars. So, we check out. He bought a couple other things, but I can't remember. We jump in the car and he's driving and he's blasting, what album is that? 1990, the one that has a little red Corvette on it, 1999. He's blasting and he's playing air guitar and he's looking at me. I was like, oh my God, I'm driving down back roads of Minnesota with Prince is driving and he's playing 1999 and he's playing air guitar. And he's looking at me. At that time, that was the first surreal moment I had. Oh my God, I'm working with Prince. And he's driving, he hadn't been doing like 70 miles an hour. An old beat up Jeep Grand Cherokee. And he went back to the studio and ate all the ice cream by himself. He didn't offer me. Oh man. I was like, I can't believe this. Thank you for watching, and you can find me at ianboxill.com.
Is that how they can find you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.